This is an overview of the Dart dictionary made by Reese Baldwin and Kelly Hancox. So, as an overview of Flutter, it is the cross-platform framework made by Google. It's built upon the Dart language, and it's pretty much made up entirely of its own native widgets. Some examples of apps that were built in Flutter would be the Google Ads app here, the Hamilton app, and our very own Dart dictionary. Flutter is pretty much limitless in terms of what you could do with it because it is a framework for creating other apps. And we looked up how compatible it was for other platform areas, and it seems to be pretty compatible. There were a lot of videos on how to integrate Maps SDK for Android with the Flutter app, and then there were also some for the Maps kit from iOS. And so it seems like you could create a lot of things with Flutter and that it's still ever expanding. So how we learned about it, we went to the CodeLab tutorial on the Flutter development website, and we both did that tutorial. So we learned about stateful versus stateless widgets, the scaffold widget, and the list view widget. And then I would also really recommend checking out the widget catalog. This has the complete list of widgets, and it's really cool to look at those. There are like 6 different scrolling widgets, and there are widgets, there's a whole category for accessibility. And that was really cool. And basically, since everything's a widget, it was interesting to think in that way. And something that we did struggle with that we would recommend looking up if you come into this problem was that we were trying to load in our content from our JSON asynchronously, and so we had to look into the init state method. So check out this Medium article here. It's just called Load JSON Data in Flutter in Different Ways, if you ever run into that problem. So for third-party components, we don't have any because we use the JSON that we stored in another folder, and we use native libraries, the Dart convert library and the services.dart library. And as for privacy concerns, we don't think there is any here either because it's not hooked up to any database and there's no user information being saved. Now for the demo. So the best thing about Flutter is that you can run it on both an Android and an iOS device. So let's check out the Android device first. Here we have it running on a Nexus 6. Basically, our app consists of 3 levels, 1 main level with 2 levels of routes. And on this first level, you can see the categories that we decided to learn about. So if we click on data, this is a raised button widget here. Then it'll take us to our next level, our next route, which is like a page. And then this is a list view. So if I wanted to learn about strings, we basically have these different list tiles with information about strings. So we first describe strings in Dart, and then we have an example of a string, like a tutorial. And then we have strings in Java, and we compare them to Dart. And then we have an example and strings in Swift. And we have this little favorites button on each list tile here, so you can click it here. And if I favorited maybe a couple paragraphs here, then when I go back to my main page, I can click up here and see my favorites. And this is in another list tile here. Yeah, and let's check that out in our iOS device. So you can see as I'm clicking through here, this basically looks the same because the widgets are the same. So it's kind of amazing how it transfers from one device to the other.